just going to do this very quickly. If you've seen my channels, seen my videos, I mean, and seen, been into my channel or my content, you should know that every I made a resolution basically earlier in the year, basically to every week, at least once a week, I will stream a live video discussing whatever it is, anything or anything at that moment in time that's on my head or what I'm thinking about basically. Today, I didn't get a chance to do the review of yesterday, what happened with the Formula One at the Dutch Formula One Grand Prix results yesterday. Honestly, I might go into a little bit more details in another video, but it was one of those things where basically I was a little surprised. I mean, not surprised with Max Verstappen winning. I mean, that's a given. That was a given. And the fact that he's gotten 9 in a row, congrats to him. He's tied Seb for like the most consecutive wins. Then the other factor is you've got, what's his name? Fernando Alonso. I mean, that was pretty impressive what he did, basically. I'm looking at his the starting grid exactly. He started off on number 5, and he finished off number 2. And then mad congrats to Pierre Gasly. I mean, granted, Sergio, if he didn't have that penalty, he probably would have finished 3rd. But because of that, Pierre Gasly finished 3rd. So for Alpine, great results for them. Then of course, Carlos Sainz with Ferrari. The question comes down to is what is going to happen with Leclerc? I mean, the way Leclerc's just like dropping now considerably. I mean, this was the guy. This guy was basically the future of Ferrari. He had everything going for him at one point when he first started. I mean, you even had Sebastian Vettel basically is like, I refuse to acknowledge him because he was that good, I guess. And so Vettel, as all Formula One drivers have an ego. I think he refused to acknowledge that Leclerc was the better driver, which was the case. Now it's a case of like this year, it's unknown what's going on. I mean, like Leclerc is just like dropping basically, whereas Sainz is it's maintaining his, I don't want to say momentum, but maintaining his level that he's at, where he's in the top 5, top 7, basically most of the times, at least the top 7 for sure. Or top 10, sorry, I should say top 10, not top 7, because like there are a couple of times where he's fallen out. But at least he's been in the top 10 for quite a while. So I'm not sure what to say about what's going on, but I can say this. Looking at the results, I mean, granted, yeah, it was raining at that time. I think it came down to strategy at this point with the tires and such, and looks like basically Red Bull knows what they're doing with strategy, and they have they have a great engine, they have a great chassis. Anyone else that's trying to catch up to them, it's not going to happen. Put it this way: at this point right now, Red Bull has it in the back project. The only way they lose it is if both Max and Sergio Checo basically do not finish the race at all. That's the only way that happens is if they DNP or DNF for the next remaining races, which is highly unlikely. Or they don't score any points. Those are the two chances. Those are the two cases. Both of them to collectively either DNF or basically finish below 12th place. I know 10 points and on is you get points, but 12th and below shows pretty much a DNF at that point. So that was a real surprise at that point, to the point of like how Alonso shot up and like basically Alpine finally is doing decent enough with Gasly. Mad props to him again, as I said. Lewis Hamilton, I want to say the GOAT, but it seems like as the years will go on, if everything maintains the way they are, it looks like Max is going to definitely beat out Lewis's records, probably even break both his and Schumacher's total titles, basically, if Red Bull can maintain their superiority with their engine as well as their chassis. Because Max, I don't foresee him losing out in this situation. I mean, I think it's the same thing with what happened with Sebastian Vettel. Unless the engines themselves change completely as well too, that's a different story as well too. If the engines change completely where Max is not used to it, that'll play a big factor, because that's what happened with Sebastian. Let's be honest. Once they went the hybrid route and they changed the engine type, Vettel could never, recoup and like get used to it, and it took him a while. And once he did get used to it, it just was a little bit too late at this point. Like everything changed. If he'd stayed with Red Bull, I think he probably would have been the greatest. If he'd stayed with Red Bull, I think he would have been the greatest at this point, honestly. Which makes me wonder now is if if Hamilton were to leave Mercedes and let's say go to Ferrari, it'd be interesting to see how that works out if he were to go to Ferrari. Because one of the things I'm kind of curious, even though Ferrari's not doing so great, or for that matter, if he goes to Aston Martin, because let's put it this way: when he was in McLaren, he did really well and he was doing really well. He showed his brilliance. Everyone says, "Oh, it was pure luck when he went to Mercedes because they were on the upswing at that point, and that's why he just happened to be there." I think he said any driver that would have been there probably would have done the exact same thing. It's hard to say. Sorry, hard to say. I mean, let's say if Sebastian had not gone to Ferrari but had gone to Mercedes in 2013, would he be the greatest? It's hard to say because let's not forget Nico Rosberg was with Mercedes practically from the beginning, and honestly, he was doing well. It's just between him and Hamilton, it was interesting to see what the dynamics with those two were. I mean, they showed how great both the drivers were to the point of like if Nico were to come back, Nico Rosberg that is, were to come back and let's say be in a Red Bull, would it be in the same situation or would he have to like compete with a Max Verstappen? I think Verstappen would out. It'd be interesting to say that I think everyone always is kind of curious and always everyone wants to see this happening eventually where the drivers equal car, equal engine basically, and see how well they do at that point. Forget about the whole strategy part of things, but like it would be interesting to see how that works because that will give you a true definition of who is actually the better driver at that point. But in reality, it's the driver with the team, so let's not forget that. So I will say this: it is alive. I should probably make it a little bit more longer, but I'm a little busy right now. Unfortunately, I can't see any chats if there are any chats coming in. But I will say this: it's very fascinating to see how Formula One has progressed over the years, and I think Netflix played a huge factor with Drive to Survive by adding more fans to it. And now you're seeing a lot of these other sports trying to do these sort of documentaries in a ways like Formula One, like with Arsenal, what they did with Arsenal and Man U on Amazon for soccer. And now like that's why FX is doing this Wrexham thing, with what's their names, Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney with the Wrexham team basically, and how they're following it. Like now they're trying to get people into that. Honestly, it'd be interesting to see if someone does a documentary, and a really good documentary that is, or docu-series on an MLS team, just like the way Hard Knocks changed football as well too. A lot of people started becoming more football fans after seeing Hard Knocks in the beginning. I think if they could do that for not only for MLS but also for baseball. Honestly, I think baseball is waning. It sort of is supposed to be America's pastime, but it's kind of declining. I think if baseball can do something of that nature, like what they did with Hard Knocks, what they're doing with Drive to Survive, follow a couple of teams and follow players and such, I think it can change the dynamic of the league itself as well too. Similarly to what MLS, I mean, like you got Arsenal, you got Man U, you've got other teams out there that are creating documentary series or docu-series for these particular things, like with Amazon and Netflix, Amazon Prime and Netflix, and Hulu, and HBO Max for that matter. If Apple were to do something of that nature, come close to that, if Apple were to do something for both MLB and for MLS, specifically for MLS, considering that they have a high stake into MLS now, if they were to do that in MLS and maybe sort of let it go out to other other networks or other streaming platforms as well too, I think they might bring the popularity of MLS back into Apple, and Apple could be the main driver of bringing in these fans. Because let's not forget, Formula One ESPN licensed it out from Sky Sports or Sky Network. Sorry. Um, Honestly, don't be surprised if like someone else is going to come in and like like the way ESPN did it with football. Do not be surprised if NBC, aka Peacock or Paramount Plus, or even for that matter Hulu, aka Disney, goes after them and like tries to bring in. Well, actually, Disney already has it with ESPN Plus, anyways. But yeah, Peacock or Viacom or even Fox Sports tries to go in for the Formula One, because like right now Fox Sports has NASCAR, which is a popular sport in the U.S. But Formula One being a global brand, I think Fox might come into it, because the fact is like it's becoming much more popular than ever, quite honestly, next to football. I wish I could see my chats here. Unfortunately, I can't see the chats because OBS is kind of like refreshing for some reason, i.e. it's refreshing through Restream. So I am sending it off to Twitch as well as to the YouTube as well too. So I think maybe I should just like set this up to go to YouTube instead of Twitch. I was just using Twitch as a test to see if this works out, but it looks like it's not working out. I mean, I think if I build out enough of an audience for both or one, maybe get others into that one, then yeah. But I don't think it's working in this situation. It would be great if I could, but I don't see that happening. But yeah, and honestly, too, the other factor is I haven't used Twitch. I mean, if there's an app on the phone that could do both YouTube Live and Twitch together, I mean, I might be Restream at that point as well too. I'll gladly stream some stuff as well too for that. But in any case, I'll leave it at that. I'm already at 12 minutes. Normally I stream. I've never set a time limit for when I do lives. Honestly, I never created that part of my resolution when doing a 1 week, at least once a week live stream of setting the time limit. Minimum, the bare minimum and bare max or maximum of time. I try to keep it as realistic as possible, but this is, and again, I welcome anyone that wants to like basically flame war me if they want to. I don't know. It's like whatever. You're welcome to comment whatever you want to comment. Comment as much as you want. I may respond, may not respond. I mean, it depends. If it warrants a response, I'll respond. If you're trying to goat me into something, I might jump into it depending on what my mood is at that point in time. There were some shorts that I posted up and like, someone was like asking for some stuff and I was ready to, but then I realized not a good idea, honestly, but could have, but it turned into a more political thing, and I'm trying to avoid the political thing more than anything else, honestly. It's not a case of like just being PC. It's just more of like politics. My politics, I try to take the best of. Basically, it's like what the ideal is. I mean, like it's either you can't be just Republican and Democrat or independent for that matter, or whatever it is. Like being labeled, it's just a matter of like can you take the best of each one and go from there. And that's the thing is, I don't think that's ever going to happen. It's going to be hard to do. I mean, like for those that want saying, oh, you shouldn't tax, but at the same time, if you don't tax, then how do you pay for all these services? Like as far as roads being paved, or government municipalities aspects of like infrastructure and such. I mean, you can make them private, but then you're subjective to how they do toll hikes, as well as which streets get more what's it called? Potholes filled up and such. That's a whole other factor altogether, basically, which I'm not sure what to say exactly about that. But it's honestly enough, it's almost no different anyways from government politics, to be honest, because like some streets you have to like make if you complain enough and get enough people, then they'll go pave the road off, fill up those potholes, clear some trees. But in reality, if it's just you, if you know someone, then you get it done. If you don't, you're going to have to gather enough people and gather enough momentum, which rarely ever happens. Similarly, it's that situation. Like if it were to be privatized, I mean, if it were to be privatized, the only thing is then you would have to pay for it yourself. Because let's say if you have a pothole in front of your property, the street, even though it's not on your property, but it's in front of your house, on the street, who's going to pay for it? He's like, it's not my problem, but in reality, if we privatize that aspect of things, then that's it. So that's where the taxes come in. So let's not forget, there's taxes that do pay for all this stuff. In any case, again, that's outside of the norm. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, yeah, I mean, of course, there's also these hurricanes that are going on in the Caribbean area. Cancun's going to be hit with Cuba, and then of course, then it's going to go up the western coast of Florida. Good luck to everyone in Florida, Western Florida. Hopefully, the hurricane is not that bad in the Gulf of Mexico area. For those that are on the eastern side of the coast with Hurricane Frank, I think. Hopefully, that's nothing, and it just dies out and becomes nothing more than a tropical storm. But we'll wait and see. We'll have to wait and see, of course, between these two storms when they hit mainland. Yeah, and I'm kind of curious to see what happens with the next two Republican debates. And probably, I might just live stream one of them when I'm watching. I might just live stream it basically while I'm watching it and giving you my opinions about it. Like, oh, snap, he did not just say that in that some form or another in that aspect, anyways. But in any case, I'll leave it at that. I'm already at 16 minutes, so all right, you know what? I'll just cut it off early. Unfortunately, I wish I could say that, I could see your chats if there was anyone that was leaving a comment. I did not see it, but once it becomes permanent, you can put the comments in there. I do read my comments when I get notified about them, and I do respond to them when they warrant a response. If you've subscribed, thank you for the subscription. If you haven't, but you love my content, love my videos, and love my channel, please subscribe. And by the way, there's this part of the aspect of like just putting everything normal, with my rants and such. But then there's also my shorts, which is like random stuff, to be honest, to like, essentially entertain people. I like to try to entertain people. I hope I can bring that to you and, bring some aspects of joy, or laughs for that matter. Bring more aspects of laughs to you, basically, more than anything else. I don't mean to rile people up, but if it does, apologies, but you're welcome to come back at me, basically. I welcome criticism and feedback as well too. But with that, I'll leave it at that. Unfiltered, unedited.